Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. The year was 2000. A new century had dawned, filled with flickering screens, digital hopes, and a collective breath held for what might come next. The world had survived Y2K. The internet was growing faster than anyone imagined. America, flush with the energy of a new millennium, launched a tribute unlike any it had seen before, one that would celebrate the identity of each state, minted into the very currency that passed through every hand, every day, and so came the Massachusetts state quarter. To most, it was simply another part of the 50 state quarters program, number 6 in the series. Just a quarter. Just another commemorative coin meant to circulate for a while, then fade into the backdrop of commerce. But for the keen-eyed collector, the story was far from ordinary. This coin held secrets, of history, of design, of rare minting quirks that would turn some versions into legendary finds worth thousands. It began with a concept: the U.S. Mint wanted each quarter to reflect the heritage of the state it represented. And Massachusetts, where revolution met reason, where freedom was forged, deserved something more than the typical imagery. The final design was stark, powerful. It bore the outline of the state, crisply engraved. And across that outline stood the Minuteman, modeled after the statue in Concord, musket at the ready, feet firm, eyes focused. He was not merely a soldier, he was a symbol of readiness, defiance, and the spirit of independence that sparked a nation's birth. The state motto, "The Spirit of America," curved elegantly above him, whispering pride through its serifed font. It was a design rooted in defiance, sculpted in dignity. The reverse side was designed by Thomas D. Rogers Sr., whose steady hand brought the Minuteman to life in nickel and copper. The coin was minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with over 1.1 billion pieces released in total. To the casual observer, that high number might mean the coin had no special value. But numismatists knew better, because not all coins are created equal. Some bear mistakes, tiny fractures in perfection, that make them rare beyond belief. In 2005, a school teacher in Ohio found a 2000 Massachusetts quarter that looked slightly different. The state outline seemed thicker. The word Massachusetts was slightly shifted. Under magnification, it was clear, this was a double die reverse. Only a handful of such coins have ever been verified. That teacher's quarter. It was graded MS65 DDR by PCGS and sold quietly to a collector for $2,800. The Massachusetts quarter had barely begun its life in circulation before stories started surfacing. Not whispered rumors, but murmurs of something stranger. Different. Valuable. It started in rural Florida, where a flea market dealer received a handful of state quarters from a teenage boy trading for a baseball card. One coin caught his eye. It looked normal, at first, then he flipped it under the light. The reverse shimmered with a strange golden tone, not like tarnish, but like something fundamentally different. He knew coins well enough to suspect something wasn't right. The weight confirmed it, 5.7 grams, instead of the standard 5.67. Just barely off, but enough to spark curiosity. He sent it off for analysis. The results. The coin had been struck on a foreign planchet, likely meant for a coin from the Philippines, where the U.S. had previously helped mint coinage during the 20th century. Somehow, one of those blanks had ended up beneath the Massachusetts quarter dies. It was officially designated a wrong planchet strike, and in the numismatic world, that meant gold, figuratively, and nearly literally. The coin later appeared at auction with an opening bid of $6,000. It closed at $13,750, bought by a private East Coast collector known for acquiring ghost mint errors, and that was just the beginning. Elsewhere, a coin dealer in Arizona spotted something even more bizarre. A 2000 Massachusetts quarter that looked ghostly. The Minuteman was faint. Not erased, not worn, faintly struck, as though his image had faded before the strike even began. The fields around him were sharp. The text. Clear. But the iconic soldier. Almost spectral. It was dubbed the Ghost Minuteman. Mint officials explained it as a result of die fatigue, a die that had worn down so much from repeated strikes that the raised areas failed to fully impress into the blank. While this phenomenon is not unheard of, to see it on such a critical design element, and so early in the coin's mintage, was almost poetic. Only a handful have surfaced. And in high grade, these ghostly versions are hauntingly valuable. .1 specimen, graded MS-67, sold at a 2018 Las Vegas coin convention for $9,200, to a collector who specializes in state quarters with known defects. He called it, "the most elegantly flawed coin I've ever seen." But while errors told their own story, perfection told another. At the San Francisco Mint, proof versions of the Massachusetts quarter were being struck in deep cameo finishes, encased in velvet boxes and sold to collectors across the country. Most were treasured, never touched, never dropped into vending machines or lost behind couches. But a few, a very few, were struck perfectly. In 2009, a collector in Boston opened an old proof set he'd forgotten he'd ordered back in the day. The Massachusetts quarter inside looked immaculate. He had it graded on a whim. It came back from PCGS as PR70 deep cameo, perfect score. There are less than 150 examples known in that condition. Most hover in the $400 to $600 range, but this one had an attribute most don't. A pristine die polishing line, so faint it could only be seen under magnification, running diagonally across the Minuteman's musket. A polishing artifact that made this proof one of a kind. It was later sold in a private sale for $950. Still, not all stories happen in auctions or coin shows. Some unfold in basements, years after they were forgotten. In 2021, a young woman cleaning out her grandfather's storage unit in New Jersey discovered a sealed U.S. Mint bag, stamped MA 2000D. It had never been opened. $50 worth of brand new quarters, untouched by human hands since being sealed in Denver 2 decades earlier. She had no idea what she had. A dealer she contacted did. Among the 200 coins, 7 graded MS-68, and 1, a flawless beauty with razor-sharp strike, no contact marks, and bold luster, graded MS-69. It was the highest known business strike of the 2000 Massachusetts quarter. The coin now lives in a museum case, insured for $18,000, displayed beneath a small plaque that simply reads, "Found in a basement, born for history." It was 2001, and while the world below grappled with its own chaos and transformation, a small object left Earth's surface strapped inside a titanium cargo container, bound for orbit aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour. Among scientific instruments, food rations, and a few personal keepsakes from the astronauts, floated a crisp Massachusetts state quarter, bright, untouched, and specially chosen by the U.S. Mint for a symbolic journey. It was the first state quarter to enter space. The coin orbited Earth over 200 times. For weeks, it floated in zero gravity inside the International Space Station, catching glimmers of sunlight through the station's small portholes, a tiny monument to American Revolution floating peacefully above the planet that birthed it. When it returned, NASA carefully documented its mission log, and the coin was sealed inside a transparent acrylic capsule and presented to the Smithsonian. Though it never bore a value, it was never for sale, it became one of the most viewed state quarters in history. But back on Earth, something far more terrestrial, and controversial, was unfolding. Inside the Philadelphia Mint, a quiet protest was brewing. A small group of workers, frustrated by budget cuts, reduced hours, and concerns over machine quality, took an unusual route to draw attention to their situation. While no official investigation ever confirmed sabotage, one quarter from the 2000 Massachusetts series bore an anomaly that sparked endless speculation. Under the Minuteman's musket, barely visible unless under extreme magnification, were 3 tiny lines that didn't appear on any design blueprints. Some claimed they resembled a set of initials. Others said it was a set of tally marks, like days counted on a prison wall. Whether intentional or the result of a scratched die remains unknown. The coin was authenticated by PCGS as genuine, with an anomaly of unexplained origin. It was dubbed the protest quarter by collectors, and although its value remains fluid due to debate over its nature, the coin last sold for $7,100, bought by a collector fascinated by mint lore and mysteries. Then, in 2015, a coin emerged online that shook the collector world. A Massachusetts state quarter, normal at a glance, was listed on eBay $4,500,000. The listing drew laughter at first. A modern quarter, with billions minted? $500,000, but the photo was clear. This wasn't any quarter. The coin was struck with no reverse design, the Minuteman stood tall on the obverse, the date, 2000, crisp, and the words, "The Spirit of America," arched above, but the reverse? A smooth, featureless surface, like the coin had simply given up halfway through birth. Experts weighed in, the coin had not been tampered with. It had not been ground down or buffed. It had been struck on a capped die, one that had retained a thin layer of metal from a previous strike. This caused the design on the second strike to be absorbed into the cap, leaving the reverse blank. A near mythical error. Only one other example had ever been seen in a state quarter series. This one was pristine, though the eBay listing was pulled after a few days. Rumors suggest it sold in a private deal for over $85,000. And then there was the Boston find. It was a quiet morning in Guam. The kind of morning where the winds carried whispers of ancient songs, and the ocean stretched endlessly in hues of blue and memory. But 75 years earlier, these same shores had seen a different kind of morning, a storm of steel, smoke, and blood. It was here, on the beaches of the Pacific, that the price of freedom was paid in full. And it was here that history would one day be etched into metal, as a reminder forever held in the palm of a hand. The 2019 war in the Pacific Quarter was not just a coin, it was a tribute. A tribute minted in copper and nickel, but heavy with meaning, part of the America the Beautiful Quarter series. It was the third release of that year. Most saw it as another addition to their pocket change, another piece of a national collection effort. But beneath its common surface lay uncommon stories, of design born from legacy, of a battlefield cast in miniature, and of a single mint mark, D, that would make some versions worth thousands. The design was haunting. On its reverse, U.S. soldiers stormed the beach at Asin Bay, weapons drawn, crawling toward the jungle beyond. In the foreground, a fellow Marine climbs from the surf, pushing forward through the surf foam, frozen in motion by engraver Joel Iskowitz. He captured not only movement, but tension. Fear. Courage. Above it all, the words "War in the Pacific" and Guam 2019 sit carved like gravestones, clean, solemn, eternal. This wasn't just a coin. It was a battlefield in miniature. At the Denver Mint, where over 201 million of these quarters were struck, machines rumbled 24 hours a day, carving history with rhythmic precision. But even with such high numbers, not all quarters came out equal. Among collectors, the Denver minted coins, those with the D mark, began to stir special attention. The reason? A small batch emerged with a barely visible doubling on the words "In God We Trust." The letters shimmered under magnification, as though whispered twice by the die. This wasn't a trick of light. It was a true double die obverse. The first of these was discovered in Texas, by a retired schoolteacher who had a habit of checking every coin she received from the local vending machine. She sent it in for grading. The result, a genuine 2019 War in the Pacific double die obverse, graded MS65. It was listed on eBay with a $5,000 asking price. It sold in 2 hours, but that wasn't the only anomaly. In late 2019, a numismatist in Colorado stumbled upon a version of the quarter with a dark, golden tone, far richer than the standard clad appearance. Initially believed to be artificially toned, testing revealed it was struck on a planchet with a slightly different composition. An experimental alloy accidentally fed into the press. Only 3 such specimens are known to exist. The last of these was auctioned at Heritage Auctions in early 2023, closing with a final bid of $21,400. They called it a proof-like strike. But this was no San Francisco Mint specimen, no polished coin encased in velvet or sealed in cellophane. This was a Denver quarter, struck for circulation, but it shimmered like glass under light. The fields reflected faces like a mirror. The soldiers, frozen mid-battle, looked sharper, deeper, almost alive. The coin surfaced in Nevada. A truck driver found it in a fast food restaurant's change tray. Something about the way it caught the light made him pause. He didn't spend it. Instead, he slipped it into his wallet next to a faded photo of his grandfather, a World War II Marine who had fought in Guam. 2 weeks later, he took it to a coin shop in Salt Lake City. The dealer's jaw dropped. Under 10x magnification, it was flawless. No contact marks. Deep, mirrored fields. Frosted devices. It wasn't struck from proof dies, but it behaved like one. A rare proof-like circulation strike, the result of a freshly polished die striking a planchet just moments before it began to wear down. It was submitted to PCGS and graded MS67PL, the only one of its kind known at the time. It sold privately to a West Coast collector for $11,500. The truck driver kept the photo of his grandfather and mailed a portion of the money to the local VFW in his name, but not all coins arrive so cleanly. That same year, a boy in Georgia discovered a misaligned die strike, a quarter where the reverse was slightly shifted, causing the soldiers on the beach to look blurred, like phantoms caught mid-motion. The Minuteman at the center had vanished into the rim. The entire scene had tilted, as if the battlefield had buckled beneath the weight of war. Collectors nicknamed it the Ghost Soldier Quarter. Mint records later confirmed that a faulty collar had allowed a brief misalignment before being replaced. Only a few dozen coins were likely struck during the defect's brief life. One example, graded $58, was displayed at the 2021 ANA convention in Rosemont, where it drew crowds of onlookers who leaned close, peering into the coin like it held a secret. That same summer, a memorial bench was dedicated in Hagatna, Guam's capital. Local veterans gathered at sunrise as a plaque was unveiled, commemorating both American and Chamorro soldiers who defended the island during World War II. Unknown to the public, beneath that bench, sealed inside a stainless steel box, was a time capsule. Inside that capsule was a single coin, a 2019 D War in the Pacific Quarter, chosen by a Marine Corps veteran who had helped design the memorial. The capsule will not be opened until July 21, 2100, on the 156th anniversary of Guam's liberation. That coin, shielded from light, time, and oxygen, rests in silence now, waiting. But there was one more story that rattled the community. In late 2022, a YouTuber known for unboxing rolls live discovered a sealed box of quarters from a local bank in New Mexico. He streamed as he opened the second roll, casually flipping coin after coin. Then, his hand froze. One of the coins was missing the entire date. It wasn't worn, it was clean, crisp, but the die had completely failed to strike the lower reverse. The words Guam and 2019 were missing entirely. Only the battlefield remained, anonymous, suspended in time. That night, the stream exploded. Thousands watched the replay. Comments poured in from collectors, historians, and veterans alike. It was eventually dubbed the Forgotten Date Quarter. It was authenticated as a struck-through grease error, where debris had filled the die's engraving, preventing full detail transfer. While such errors aren't always rare, the placement, covering the most crucial identifiers, made it a legend. That quarter sold on eBay $400. They weren't looking for treasure. Just a gift. A young couple in Oregon, recently engaged, were exploring coin collecting together. As a surprise, she ordered a sealed 2019 Denver Mint set online. Nothing rare, nothing fancy, just a piece of modern history they could share. But as she lifted the plastic coin holder from its sleeve, her fingers stopped. There was something different about the war in the Pacific Quarter. The luster shimmered unnaturally. Each ridge on the reverse was struck with uncanny precision. Under a loupe, the frosted soldier and the mirror-like fields clashed with a brilliance that made it seem as though it had been struck seconds ago. It was sent in for grading. PCGS labeled it MS69+, for a coin not intended to be proof, and with over 200 million struck, this was nearly miraculous. Only one other had ever graded at this level. But this one had a slightly stronger reverse strike. Noted on its report, the coin sold 3 months later for $22,800, purchased by a quiet investor from Virginia with a known collection of top modern rarities. The couple took part of that money and used it to fund their wedding, and in a quiet moment during their vows, they both smiled, knowing it all began with a coin most people would never notice. But others noticed something different entirely. A pawn shop in Guam, small, tucked between a laundromat and a barbecue joint, became the epicenter of one of the strangest war in the Pacific coin stories of all. In mid-2023, a tourist walked in with a handful of change. Among it was a 2019 D quarter with a shimmer not quite right. The owner, a former Marine and longtime collector, immediately saw something was off. The coin gleamed gold. It wasn't spray-painted or dipped. It had a uniform, thin golden layer, barely detectable to the eye, but unmistakable under testing. And it passed the magnet test. It was a real quarter, coated at the Denver Mint, likely by accident. After contacting a metallurgist and sending the coin for compositional analysis, the results shocked everyone. The coin had a micron-thin coating of gold, not enough to impact weight, but enough to prove a mechanical plating anomaly during the planchet preparation phase. Experts agreed, it was not post-mint. This was an accidental gold-plated quarter, minted during the final maintenance phase of the planchet cleaning line. It was the only one ever authenticated. When the coin was listed at a California auction house under tight security, whispers circled forums and Reddit threads. People speculated that someone at the mint may have been experimenting, or making a silent statement. The bidding opened at $10,000. It ended at $38,500. The buyer, a private Asian museum that had been collecting error coins that tell stories. But even higher still was the story of one coin that should have never made it to the public. An employee at a distribution center in Nebraska stumbled across a war in the Pacific quarter that had a strange feel, not in design, but in wear. It looked pristine. Like a prototype. She took it home, checked online forums, and within hours was contacted by 3 collectors begging for a photo. What she had was a full-strike test piece, struck at higher tonnage pressure for internal mint evaluation purposes.